So today we're going to walk you through setting up a new organization from scratch. And so we're going to just walk through the setup wizard, and I'll hopefully be able to answer some questions for some of you people who aren't accountants who are going to be doing this on your own. So this is the only screen that will look different for you, but for me, this is how it looks. And you'll have the same prompt. They'll ask you to put in the organization and where do you pay taxes, meaning the country you are based in. So we're going to call it ABC 123 because I am not very creative, and that is okay. And as you can see here, you can want to convert your data, move from QuickBooks for free. And so it'll actually import all your QuickBooks data for the past 2 years, I believe, into Xero for you and kind of get it all in there and set up. So here's your first page. It'll have over here, a quick start guide if you need one, some other things that take a look at. And for me, from here, if you're watching this, just skip it. All right, so here is one of the important areas. Right here, you'll see legal trading name. You want to make sure that is the name that shows up on your IRS form that you got with your EIN, because this is what they'll be looking at when you set up direct deposit to see if it matches your EIN. So if that doesn't, it'll just kick it back to you, and you'll have to go into the organization settings and put it in there correctly. That's one thing I'll point out from the beginning here is if any of the settings that you see here, if you don't set them in, put them in there correctly, or you make a mistake or there's a typo, you can always correct that later. And that's one thing I like about finance and accounting. There is going to be a record of you making a change, but you can always fix something if you make a mistake. So here's your address. Go ahead and put an address in there. You can put a postal and physical address if you want them to be different. Like if you have a PO box and a physical address, go ahead and do that. And then of course pick the appropriate entity type. And then at the bottom here, these are here so that if you do invoicing, your links to your Facebook, Twitter, Google, all that will show up on online invoices. So go ahead and put that in there if you care. So here is where you'd put in your sales tax ID number and your tax basis, cash flow accrual. And so this is not just related to sales tax. This is just for everything. And then your tax period. And then here is the other area you're going to want to change. So for some businesses, like for service businesses like I run, for sales, you're not going to have to collect any sales tax. So there's not going to be any tax for anything you sell unless you sell a specific good or product by itself in most cases. And of course you want to, consult your local laws for the city you live in and then the state as well. But for most services, it's going to be a no for taxes. But on purchases, the tax, this should not be a no most of the times. So it should be inclusive or exclusive so that when you pay bills, make purchases and everything, you are showing that you are paying taxes. And then up here, something you'll notice is it shows automatically a December 31st date for your year end. Most companies will be that, but if you're not, you can go ahead and change it right here. And then of course, make sure your time zone is correct. So this screen you might want to just skip for now because the template they have here, we'll just hit yes so you can see. This template right here is really basic, and that's nice. There's not a lot of things you can change for your invoice, but you want to upload a logo, and then you can change your terms, and that's about it. You can change some of the margins, and the font, but there's not a whole lot you can change here. And the other thing that you can't set up here right now is you can't do anything with payments or the way you collect payments because you have to set up your payment services later. So I'd almost just say set up your invoices at a later time. All right, right here, it's going to ask you if you want to invite your accountant or bookkeeper to help you set up the rest of it because they're going to say that you probably need them. You can go ahead and skip, or you can hit yes, and yes, it'll prompt you to set up a client. So we'll hit yes, and it'll just show you the typical new user form. You put in their first name, last name, their email, and then you set their level of access. And so most people that you give user access to will not have these bottom 3 checks marks. And if you're inviting your accountant, you probably need to put them as an advisor so they can see everything. But then as an advisor, as long as you don't check these, they can't add new users, they can't access payroll, and they can't see your bank account, which a lot of your accountants may want. You may want them to be able to see payroll, but you can change that at any time in the future. So we're going to hit cancel because I don't have anyone I want to add because, I'm going to do it all by myself. Don't need no accountant. So this next screen, most companies probably can ignore, especially small businesses, because you're going to be more than likely dealing with just one currency. But if you aren't, here's where you would add the currencies used by your organization. The one thing to mention is if you do need to use foreign organizations, you will no longer qualify for the base level of Xero, so you're not going to be in that $30 a month bracket. You'll be in the highest level, which is $120, I believe, something like that. So we're going to just skip that. All right, this is where you put in your sales tax rates. And so right now it gives you a default of 4. It says sales tax on imports, tax exempt. So this is going to always be 0. Taxes on purchases and taxes on sales. So you're going to need to add more if you need to. And like it says in the example up here, there's oftentimes 2 taxes. A lot of times there's a state tax and a local sales tax. And so they have this little article here for more tax rates, but this can be kind of complicated. So this may be an area where you would want to consult an accountant. But if you feel comfortable with it, go ahead and add all the ones you need. But like I said, with the service business, this one here is always going to probably be 0. And then as you can see, accounts using this rate. So these are the accounts in your chart of accounts that are assigned to this tax rate. All right, so here is one area that I would like to suggest that most small business owners just stick with the default chart of accounts provided by Xero. Even if you're coming from an old system from Xero, from QuickBooks or any other old accounting system, I'd still probably suggest going with chart of accounts in Xero. And the reason for that is a lot of times if you've had a business running for several years, there's a lot of legacy accounts in there that probably didn't need to be there in the first place. And so when you set up a new business, sometimes it's nice to just start from scratch, add the accounts as you need them, and that way you don't have hundreds and hundreds of accounts in each chart of accounts. But if you would like, you can always import a file into Xero as well. And then go ahead and hit next. All right, so now you get to see all the chart of accounts. So if you imported it, it'll show you all the accounts you imported. You can make adjustments. If something got coded wrong, go ahead and change it here. And like I said before, these, if you click on any of these, like inventory here, it'll show here at the bottom what sales tax it's assigned to. And so you can reassign it if you need to a different one and change names or anything like that. But for most small businesses, especially new ones starting, the list they have of 53 accounts is pretty good, and more than likely you will not use all 53. But here you'll want to add your bank account. And once you've done that, you'll move on. And since in my video about bank account reconciliations, I show you how to add a bank account. I'm not going to do that now. All right, here's another important area. This is your conversion date. So here it's automatically set saying that the August 2017 is when you're converting. That means August 1st, 2017, not August 15th, 12th, 13th. It's always the beginning of the month and the end of the last month. So you can see here that you'll need to provide balances for July 31st. So that means that from your old system, you need to stop coding things. You need to stop using your old system on July 31st. And then print a trial balance and go ahead and put that in here. And that's what this next step will be done, is it'll ask you for those balances, which are accounts payable, receivable. Go in here and add your asset accounts because you'll need to do that. Computer equipment, office equipment, and then your equity accounts. Make sure those all in here, and as you can see at the bottom, it'll tell you if you're at Xero or not, and then you'll want to check this box, locking it so that no one can make any changes to anything before July 31st. So like I said before, if you mess this section up, it can be fixed. You can go in there and make some journal entries and do some things to fix it, but it makes it a little bit more difficult. But here's your setup as complete screen. And since you're watching this, you don't need to read any of this. You can just go ahead and hit finish. All right, so it's going to bring you your dashboard. So unlike some of my other videos where you'll see, a graph for your bank account, cash flow, and everything like that, all of these are going to be blank because you have no data in your system. You're starting fresh. Now, if you imported data from QuickBooks, then of course you're going to see stuff on here, but you didn't on this. We're starting out fresh, so everything's blank. So once you start adding transactions to the bank, or invoices and bills, things will start popping up here. So that's pretty much it for walking through the setup wizard for Xero. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you want me to go over any other areas in Xero or anything else below in the comments. Thanks.